Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Mi Gente on Air. It's Tuesday, and I know my apologies to everybody out there in the listening world because we were supposed to be on at 7 and it's now 7:30 just about. A lot of technical difficulties in the studio, but that is when you're going live, that's what happens sometimes. So, we're going to try and do this show, and our special guest tonight is Andrew Cardenas, who is a Saginaw native, who is an accordionist out in Texas living his dream, and he's playing for the legendary Patsy Torres. And we're going to try and get Patsy on the show later on this evening. But for right now, we're going to start the show with Andrew Cardenas. And I don't know how many of you remember Andrew back in the day at Arthur Hill High School. He is a student from 1998, class of 1998, 25-year reunion this year, I believe, and it's just amazing to me. I can't believe how much time has gone by, Andrew, because I knew you win, right? And anyways, so let's go into the show and let's talk with Andrew Cardenas.
Welcome to Mi Gente on Air on 100.5 and 790 News Radio WSGW and online WSGW.com. Now, here is your host, Larry Rodarte.
Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Mi Gente on Air. I'm so glad you're here with us today, and I am excited to be bringing you this show again that is featuring Latino culture, concerns, and contributions. And we're going to focus on contributions because we got a young man here on the show today who is a Saginaw native who is making his dreams come true down in Texas as an accordion player to the legendary Tejano artist Patsy Torres. And we're going to try and get Patsy on the show as well. We're having some technical difficulties, but we have Andrew right now. His name is Andrew Cardenas, and I don't know how many of you remember, but he has been here in Saginaw, a graduate of 1998's class at Arthur Hill High School. How you doing, Andrew?
Doing great, man. Just glad to have you out.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you on the air here on my show, Mi Gente on Air, because I know you're one of the students way back that remembers the beginning of Mi Gente, right? The magazine.
Yeah, actually, you let me have a couple articles in there.
Yeah, I remember. It was so long ago. It's been, we will be celebrating 30 years since we published the first issue in June of 1995. And Andrew was part of a group of young Hispanic students that was part of Club Diferencia. It was a group that we brought forth together from the different high schools as a way to bring and mesh the different high school Latino students together, so there wasn't any of the fighting that was going on out in the communities, out in the streets or whatever. And I think it was very successful, and you guys were really lucky that year because you had us advisors that were really gun ho, and we even took the group down to the Tejano Music Awards at one point. Some of them that were able to go, but we also had a public access show, and it was called Canto Conmigo, after the song from Diferencia. And we got permission from Ricardo Castellon to have that as a theme song of the show. And Andrew was a big part of it. Andrew, tell us a little bit about who your parents were, and so everybody can make that connection here in Saginaw.
So my parents are Enrique Cardenas. He passed in October. My mom, Antonia, she's living here with me now, but she's got a dementia, so I've been watching her since December. And so it's been tough, for me recently. But other than that, they were in Saginaw since the 70s. My mom's a retired auto worker. My dad's a retired mason. No one was really a musician, but my dad loved Tejano music. And so I caught on.
Well, I have to mention too your wife Dawn Torres Cardenas. She was also a graduate from Arthur Hill High School back in the day. She was also the American GI Forum Queen, yes, in 1998. So
Yeah.
Kudos to Dawn out there for all these years. You guys have still been together. How many years have you been married?
20. This will be 22.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So let's look at how you mentioned that there has been no musicians in terms of your family lineage. How did you get involved where you went down to Texas, moved down to Texas, and became an accordionist? That's the long story of it for a Tejano legend.
Yeah.
Tell us that
Well,
story.
I started in Saginaw actually, just picking up the accordion. When I came down to Texas, I had no big plans of being an accordion player. It just kind of happened one day, picking up the accordion at some little gig, and someone heard me and they thought I was good enough to play. And then it just kind of snowballed. And Ben Miranda, who's the vocalist for the Latin Breed,
Yes.
he was playing keys and singing with Patsy. And he knew that I wasn't really doing anything at the time. I had already kind of stopped the conjunto that had the Camino Real. And so he asked me if I wanted to play with Patsy for a fiesta, the night in Old San Antonio. And so I said, well, I mean, if she thinks I'm good enough, well, we could do it.
So how long would you say
since.
though? How long would you say it took you to actually learn the accordion where you felt comfortable enough to play for an audience?
Probably within a year, I picked it up. Like, I mean, I picked it up pretty quick.
Wow, I guess so.
I just actually picked up a chromatic accordion, which is a totally different pattern. It has everything, and I got it in the beginning of April, and I play it now, and I'll be playing it on stage.
Wow. Okay. Well, listen, like, I love Tejano music as well. You were there with me and Club Diferencia, Angela Blanco, Val Blanco, all of us in the heyday of Tejano. We had a number of different artists that came to the area, Tropa F, La Diferencia. Yeah. Remember that Pete Jennifer Peña? Remember that, man? You're going all the way back. Well, it's really amazing.
I have those posters.
You do.
Yeah, I have the covers of those magazines. They were signed by them, and I have them all laminated.
Wow.
I have to pull some out.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I don't even have that. Well, the thing is I love Tejano music like everybody, and I had my favorite singers and on. I love to sing. When I do sing, and I think I'm pretty good. And it's like if I would have moved down to Texas, and wanted to be a Tejano star, and just all the stars aligned right for you, man. Like it's like, how does a guy from Saginaw, Michigan, Arthur Hill, class of 1998, get down to Texas and become this, accordionist who plays at these gigs for Patsy Torres? I mean, that it just blows my mind, And then to my audience, we had Bumper, who was on the show from Bumper's Wacky Wednesdays, and he also interviewed Andrew and Patsy right after the week before we interviewed him. No, the day before.
The day after.
Oh, the day after. Yeah.
He did you guys, and then he did us.
Yeah. So that was really cool, and that's why I was like, man, we got to get Andrew on the show and tell his story as well. And it's just the way things have happened for him is just amazing as well. So I mean, there's some really good magic going down in Texas, I think, with what's happening for Tejano music. Tell me about how you feel about the industry today, because you're in the thick of it, and like I mentioned, you were there during the heyday, of 1994, when we were doing what we could to promote Tejano music here, La Música Tejana, and now you're over there in Texas. Tell us a little bit about how you feel about the industry today.
So the industry today, I think, is a little bit different. I think a lot of it is a radio play. People get comfortable with what they know. And so I don't think that they spend a lot of time promoting new artists. There's a lot of good artists that go unheard.
Yeah.
Because of lack of radio play. And it's not to say that the productions aren't good. They just said something that people are. The way I see it is that there was a lot of changes happening, and a lot of people weren't liking that, so it turned them away from Tejano. Tejano is not just a genre. It's, the quinceañeras, it's weddings, graduations, backyard barbecues. It's a culture. It's a way of life.
Yeah.
And people keep saying we need to change Tejano, but there's no reason to. Nobody asks mariachi to change.
Right.
It's been the same for years. It's because it's a culture. It's a tradition. It's when you play it, it has specific meaning, whether it goes back to our parents. So that's the way I feel. And I think that they just need to keep promoting the new music, not the stuff that's off the wall, that's, too hip hoppy or too much corridos or norteño. But there's a lot of Tejano bands out there.
Yeah.
And they just need to be played.
And a lot of the Midwest Tejano bands, we have quite a few here from Ohio to Grand Rapids to Saginaw, Lansing, and you're right. It is a way of life for some, and I think that sometimes as you say, people say that we have to change or whatever. It's kind of like what comes to my mind is what within the movie Selena, when Abraham Quintanilla says, we're too Mexican for some, and then too we're not Mexican enough or whatever, and it seems like we're caught in that middle of, because I kind of struggle with that as well, with in terms of food. I make the patitos for Mr. Patito Man food truck, and I'm not trying to give myself any pat on the back by that any means, but what I'm trying to say is that our food sometimes isn't Mexican enough from Mexico, and that's what people will want, and then sometimes it's too too Tex-Mex, or it's just like there's no middle almost for it. In the analogy I'm trying to make is that sometimes we just have to be who we are, because that's who we are.
It's different.
Yeah,
it's different.
Yeah,
because it is kind of a specialized genre. I equivocate it to something like, how folk was big in like the late 60s and early 70s. It hasn't stopped,
right.
But it's just not as popular. Polka music was big in the 70s and, for years,
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the same peak. I think Tejano music may have peaked and went its course, and it's ours though.
Yeah.
It's ours, and we're going to keep playing it.
I'm dating myself here when I say this, but I remember back in the late 70s, even into the early 80s, I would go down to Galveston, Texas, and I would visit my relatives out over there. And I remember that there was a lot of Tejano radio stations at that time, and then they seemed to fall off. And there, I think there's maybe one right now in Texas, and that kind of baffles me, because I remember, when I would ride with my cousins in the car on Galveston Beach and on the seawall, we had blaring Tejano music stations, and we could flip through different stations to get the Tejano music that we liked, and it's just crazy to me that those radio stations don't exist the way they did back in the early 80s. I think all the way up into the late 80s, actually. And then they kind of just, and it was strange. They may have been there as well when the artists say peaked, when they had the different labels. There was labels, I remember, because as a publisher of Mi Gente magazine, I was getting all the labels sending me samples of the music, and they had press releases and press folders for the different artists and the songs. I mean, it was just a great time, and I miss that. And I think that's what's kind of really lacking. And now Freddie Records, they do a great job. I still get some of that, information, no longer the packets, but they're streamlined online. And so it's much easier, a PDF or whatever. But it's funny how the industry has evolved. And in the 90s, that was what we considered kind of like the heyday. But I mean, there are some new artists that they don't get as much airplay or whatever. But I think that hopefully with some of the changes coming that I've heard of, that that's going to change and make a difference. But let's talk about your experience with the legendary Patsy Torres. Tell us about your relationship with her as an accordionist for her and her band.
Well, I'm kind of like her right-hand man when it comes to the band. I help her out a lot as much as I can with ideas, and we collaborate when she gives us songs, and we put medleys together. I was the one that kind of the brainchild to her medley that she put on her latest album. Um, Basically, she had a bunch of songs from the '80s, and I said, Patsy, we should redo these, you know. And I said we should do this one and this one and this one and this one. And she's like, wait a minute, can we just make a medley? And I'm like, so yeah, we did, and we went recorded it. But as far as like I said, I love Patsy. She is the nicest person I've probably ever met. I mean, she remembers everybody. Everybody loves her. The experiences I've got to had with her are just incredible. She was the grand marshal of the Fiesta Flambeau, 750,000 people in a night parade in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
I got to be on the river, on a boat playing music. We got to play for just all kinds of cool events. The Tobin Center. We get fed. I mean, I love it. They treat us like rock stars.
Yeah, and
Patsy.
And there's so much
sitting on Patsy's coattails.
Yeah, there's so much respect for her, though. She is truly a pioneer. In the early days, when she started her career in the early '80s, there were very few Tejano artists that were Latinas. Of course, the great, wonderful Selena, Patsy Torres, Laura Canales, I think, Shelly Lares, maybe. There was just a handful, and here, Patsy's still doing it. It's been over 40 years.
She's still doing it. She's still a ball of energy.
Yeah.
I can't understand. Like I get tired looking at her. I'm more tired watching her for the performance than actually playing.
Wow. And she's great. She looks great, and she's, very lively when she speaks. And like when I heard her on Bumper Wacky Wednesday, I'm like, wow, she's she's got a lot going on. She's got a lot of history. She is truly a pioneer in the industry. And it's wonderful to know that there's that Saginaw connection. And I'm like, I send her some information and all, and I'm like, do you know who Andrew is to us here in Saginaw? And it's like, we can't believe that he's playing for a Tejano legend like Patsy Torres. So that is wonderful. I'm going to ask my producer Matthew to try to look to see, because we're trying to get Patsy in the room, but there's some technical difficulties, and so we're talking with Andrew here as we prepare for that. But if we cannot get her in the room tonight, we're going to have her ask her to come on the show next week when we get all the technical difficulties fixed. So, but I've got a number of comments, Andrew, from people here, and one of them says, Adam Butron says, whatever happened to Camino Real?
Yeah, that was a conjunto that we had in the early 2010s, and people just started moving away. I still have the name, and I'm thinking about doing some things, but I'm not quite sure if with the name or if something different, or not quite sure.
And Andrew, did you before you actually played with Patsy Torres, Camino Royal was the band? Was there any other artists or bands that you actually played for or were asked to play for?
Man, I've been playing for a lot of bands. I've helped out Eddie Gonzalez, Ladez. I went all over.
So how soon after you graduated from Arthur Hill in 1998, how soon after did you move to Texas and took on this career?
I didn't take it on as a career. Like I said, it's for fun. What I do, I don't do it as a career. Like I said, I love playing music. But I graduated in 98. I didn't pick up the accordion probably until about 2004. That's when I started. I never even played it before.
Yeah.
And then I moved here in Texas in 2008.
Wow.
So I've been here 16 years.
Yeah. I remember my nephew, Rudy Rodriguez Jr., and you and he hanging out.
Boy Ruru.
Yeah. And like, I never knew that you were musically inclined. I don't even know if he did. But I'm like, wow, he's come a long way. And that's really awesome to see. You're the Club Diferencia kid that actually went to Texas and played with Tejano artists. Isn't that something? Well, because
Yeah.
we were doing that show. Remember, Club Diferencia was doing Canta Conmigo, and we
Yep.
were featuring Tejano videos of the day, all the big artists, and then we would talk to the kids in between, and we would promote our culture, and and you actually, can you imagine if we did a show today, a reunion of Canta Conmigo, and there's Andrew calling us. Having a performance with Patsy Torres, wouldn't that be something?
That would be cool. Like I said, I remember when all that started. It was real fun. Started at Casa Banda.
Yeah, do you remember
It was
that?
just six of us that started it.
Yeah, and
Me,
I got a lot of pictures, and I got you at the CAC hall with the kids, and I think it was
yeah,
at a club or a Tropa F concert, and I should have put those up tonight because you guys look so young in that picture. But like to me, you're still 18. I don't even look at you, that it's been 25 years, and it's
that's
just
crazy.
yeah, that
Yeah,
really
it's so
is.
fast. By the way, I actually have the outro of the Canta Conmigo with the credits and us dancing at Hatesco Park.
Oh
I uploaded
wow,
that video to YouTube.
wow,
I'll
yeah.
send you the link, and we can check it out.
Yeah, that would be awesome to see that again after all these years. And do we have any luck with Miss Dr. Patsy Torres? She's a doctor now that I see her. She's coming into the room. If any of you can
Hey,
see her, let's see if we can hear her.
everything I said about Patsy, you're gonna edit out, right?
Oh, I don't know.
She
No,
didn't hear that.
Patsy, can you hear us? I don't think she
Can you
can
hear us,
hear.
Patsy?
She can hear you. Can she hear me? Well, we're probably edit this out for the Sunday broadcast of Mi Gente on Air, which will be on 100.5 FM and 790 AM on Sunday evening at 8 p.m. And we're gonna continue on with the show. Patsy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, she can hear us.
Can we hear her?
Yeah.
Let's see. She'd have to call
You're
in.
on, Patsy.
Now,
She would have to call in.
can I go back?
Let her
you
know.
have to call in.
Background now.
Tell her she has to
Camera.
call in now.
There was another thing that was like a chat room.
Well,
Maybe I can
it's
get it. I got to get it the
it's
phone
pretty
number.
amazing, and
And he's not.
I
He's
know that
talking.
I'm gonna
so he's
text it
not
to her
giving
real
it
quick.
me.
Okay. I saw Andrew this last summer. He was in Saginaw. Him and Don were both back in Saginaw for a visit. And they have a lot of relatives in the area actually that are still here in Saginaw. So it's really
Oh,
nice.
here's the number.
It's really nice to see
Okay.
that
Now.
your brother Henry,
Put him on
he
put
comes
camera.
in, and
Yeah.
I see him a lot because he comes in. He works at General Motors in Flint, and he stops in for my patitos at the Union Civica Mexicana, and he'll buy a couple dinners for some of them, and then he will also stop in at the food truck. I seen him and his wife maybe about a month ago come
Let's
in,
see.
and
Can
so
you hear
it's
me?
always good to see them supporting us, and just knowing that connection to you, Andrew. So kudos to Henry as well. I think we might have Patsy Torres on the line. Patsy, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I just need you to center your camera so that you're right in the middle. And ladies and gentlemen, we are so honored on this show, Mi Gente on Air, to have the pioneer, the legendary Patsy Torres here on Mi Gente on Air. Hello, Patsy.
Hi.
Okay, that's better. Dr. Patsy Torres, please tell my audience, welcome to the show, by the way, but please tell my audience a little bit about how you are a doctor. We know, you I know you're studious. You got your degree. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, Larry, thank you for having me here, and I'm excited about being here with my partner, my accordion player, my musician. I call him the leader of the band, Andrew Cardenas, which is of course a homebody over there from Michigan. But I've always been passionate about education because my grandfather, he was a medical doctor, and he instilled in me how important education was. And he wanted me to be a doctor, and I wanted to be a medical doctor. And that's what started the education road. But then music came into my life during high school and kind of put me off the rails for a little bit, but I still had those aspirations of going to school. But once I was in the band and doing music, I started doing a lot of in-school speeches talking about education, and that led to the Positive Force Tour, which was all about keeping kids in school and education, the importance of education. And I got a call from the University of Incarnate Word to do promotion for them in return for semester hours. And that led to where I am now. I loved going back to school, ended up getting a PhD in organizational leadership and education. There
Wow.
it is in a nutshell.
Well, congratulations to you for doing that. We're going to go into commercial real quick. We are talking with Patsy Torres, the legendary Patsy Torres, and we're going to talk more about her career when we come back from Mi Gente on Air.
Do you want to grab some of those things, Larry?
So thank God we were able to get Patsy in the room. We're so thankful for that. I'm on the Facebook live stream right now, and I want to just invite people into the room. Come on in, and if you got a question or concern to either Andrew or Dr. Patsy Torres, please do so, and we will try to address that. But it's amazing to me that we have, this platform of Mi Gente on Air, and we're able to connect with a Saginaw native, Andrew Cardenas, who is having a wonderful time and career as the leader of the band for the legendary Patsy Torres. And Patsy, I did say, I hope it's okay to call you Patsy. Yeah, and we were talking about, in the beginning of your career, how there weren't very many Latinas that were in Tejano music. And I think there was Laura Canales, of course, and the legendary Selena Quintanilla. And I think Shelly Lares was around maybe in those early days. Were there any more that you can think of?
Jenny C. Ramirez and Elsa Garcia.
Oh, Elsa! Oh my gosh, yes, Elsa, the great Elsa Garcia. I loved seeing her at the Nevada recently when she played for the Nevada. I don't even know what they called that event, the Nevada Showcase.
Yeah, I'm so excited for her.
Yeah, she looks great. She looks wonderful. Yeah. And you do too, I mean, I was telling Andrew, I know you've had a career in here for over 40 years. I think 1982 is when you started.
Yes. Well, I was on trumpet, but by the time I started singing, it was a little later.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna talk all about that when we come back into the show here. We're on the live stream with the legendary Dr. Patsy Torres, and we're so excited to have someone of her caliber here on Mi Gente on Air. She was truly a pioneer. There's a lot of firsts under her name with even with the Tejano Texas Talent Music Awards, receiving the award. I believe it was in 1982, wasn't it?
No, 86. And
86?
then I got another one in the 90s, and then we just got Album of the Year just a couple of years ago.
Yeah. But that first one, it was Entertainer of the Year, which was really
86. Yeah.
86. Wow.
All right, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, so we can hear you.
Yeah.
And Andrew and I were talking a little bit about his connection to Saginaw with my magazine, which started 30 years ago, Mi Gente magazine. I can't believe you have those, Andrew. My gosh, and laminated. Look at that. All right, we're a collector. Yeah. We're gonna go back into the show, and we're gonna talk more with Patsy Torres and Andrew Cardenas. And if, like I say,
how do I see you guys? I can't see you all. How do I see you?
Let's see. How can she see us?
Can you see me?
Yep, we see you.
Yeah.
And
how do I see you? I don't know why it's not letting me.
You gotta still go into the room. I click on the link, but you would just mute your audio.
Okay. Right now, I just see a big picture of me.
Move to your left, Patsy, a little bit, just to center yourself on our end. Can you move to the left?
to the.
Yep, more, a little bit more. Yep.
A little bit more.
There we go.
Right there.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I don't know. I don't want you to push any more buttons and not be, then
I
get
know,
clicked
I'm
off.
afraid.
We can hear you
I'm
loud and
looking
clear. We
at
can see you loud and clear. It's unfortunate you can't see us. But let's go back
I
into the
know.
show. And
Okay.
Matthew Lester is going to, and my producer, he's going to put us back into Mi Gente on Air.
You're listening to Mi Gente on Air on WSGW.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Larry Rodarte. I am your host, and I'm so happy to be with you here on Mi Gente on Air, this show that brings Latino contributions, Latino concerns, and Latino culture to the masses. And I'm so fortunate to have the seat at the table to bring the artists that we do bring from Tejas, and that is today the legendary Patsy Torres. Patsy Torres, Dr. Patsy Torres, thank you for being with us here tonight. And my other guest is Andrew Cardenas, who is a Saginaw native, who is her accordion player for her band, the Patsy Torres Band, and they are just doing their thing over there in Tejas. And so congratulations to you both making the music. And I got to tell you, Patsy started her career in 1982, so we're looking at about 42 years. And that is just amazing. How does that feel for you today? From if you look at the girl that started in 1982 and there was a trumpet involved, and you got to tell the story about that, to the girl today. Tell us that story.
It took me a while to accept it because, like I said before, my whole dream was to be a medical doctor. And I kept thinking, okay, I'm not a real singer, because the band I was playing trumpet with was Blue Harmony. And they're the ones that got me to start singing, because they were going to replace all the horn players with one keyboard player.
Yeah.
So in order to stay in, they said, well, if you can sing, then maybe we could see how it goes. And so I just started singing one song a night and got discovered within 6 months. 9 months later, I was doing radio and radio interviews, and they'd ask me, they'd say, so tell us about yourself, how long you've been singing, and who's your inspiration? And I said, well, I've been singing 9 months now. My inspiration is my grandfather, Dr. Torres, and I'm a trumpet player that's going to be a doctor. And
Wow.
that's the kind of things I would say, because I just kept thinking, okay, I got a record deal and all these things going on, but I said, I'm not a real singer, so this could end any time. My focus was going into medicine. And so I was going to college the whole time.
Wow. It's just so incredible. If there was a movie that was made of your life down the road, and I'm sure there will be, can you imagine the trajectory, that how fast that happens, where you become this singer when you want to be a doctor, you pick up a trumpet, that was your first inclination to being a musician, and then you become this singer who is considered, one of the pioneering Tejano artists of the genre. I mean, it just blows my mind. And I'm so thrilled to have you on this show, because, you're setting the standard. And, it's like Andrew said to us, she is, well, he said, are you going to erase everything I said? But he actually said, you are so kind. And it's just,
yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. So tell us about, Patsy, tell us a little bit about how, from your end, how you and Andrew connected.
Andrew tried out. In fact, Andrew probably remembers better than me how it happened.
Yeah, I told her that at Ben.
The what?
Ben got me in.
Ben. And that's how usually it was. It would usually be when we needed to replace somebody, another musician in the band would go, hey, I know this guy, and they bring him in. And when that happens, it's going to be a good fit, because when it's recommended like that, as opposed to trying people out. But something I have to say about Andrew he just says it like it is. He doesn't pull any punches. And I trust him when when he can give me advice and criticism about things, and I take it wholeheartedly, because I know he's being sincere, he's being real, and I appreciate his input that he puts in the band and in the music and our arrangements and everything. So I really appreciate him, and I'm glad that Ben brought him.
Well, I knew Andrew 25 years ago. That he was very good friends with my nephew, Rudy Rodriguez Jr. And I can honestly say you're absolutely right. He does say what's on his mind, and there's no filter sometimes. And so that's how we knew him when he was a part of the group. Club Diferencia, with these group of young kids that we promoted Tejano music in a big way by having a show, Club Diferencia, and the show was Canto Conmigo, and we would feature these videos of Tejano artists, and here it's kind of come full circle because this guy is now playing for a major Tejano artist. Isn't that something? Yeah. And Andrew, pull it back a little bit because there was a big glare on that and we couldn't see it, but it looks like an article from Mi Gente magazine. That was my magazine. Wow, Andrew, I can't believe you have that. I forgot all about that. And what a collector. And Andrew remembers when Mi Gente started the publication. And oh gosh, I do remember that one. That's when we went to Texas. We took the kids to the Tejano Music Awards. And because of my publication, Mi Gente magazine, we were able to get them press passes to go in the back with the Texas Talent Music Association. And Jennifer Pena was 14 years old. We brought her to Saginaw. Pete Astudillo, we brought to Saginaw. We had the premiere of the
movie.
Yeah. Oh my God. Tropa F. Can you imagine? The magazine doesn't even look like that anymore. It's an actual 4-color magazine. Bobby Pulido, yeah. Wow, I didn't even do that, and I'm the publisher. So that's really.
I just collect a lot of music, and like that. That's how we got together and did like the medley,
Yeah. That's
Exactly.
that's really something. So that was the first song that you guys, where Andrew actually played, was the medley of your hits.
No, the first one I did was Dame Tu Corazón.
Yeah.
That album that won the Tejano Music Award.
Wow.
That's the one that won.
And
that's the one that won.
What year was that? Did that take place?
So 2020.
Oh, okay. Wow. So fairly recently. That's awesome, Andrew. Man, wow. We need to do an article on both of you in Mi Gente magazine in the future editions to tell this story even more so to my audience.
Bring it on.
Yeah. Well, Patsy, one of the things I remember, I interviewed Santana one time, and I remember asking him, what would you say to that young artist back in the Woodstock as he was entering, if he was entering, walking up the steps on the stage, what would you say to that individual if you could? And he said, burn, baby, burn. What would you say to the young Patsy Torres if you could tell her today anything before she went on to the stage?
Good question.
You're talking about a young artist, or are you talking about actually to myself?
To yourself.
I would be like, take this serious, because this is going to be your career. Because for so many years, I kept thinking, I love doing it. It was so much fun. I thought, this can't be what I'm going to do, because, I'm supposed to be in there drilling and learning about medicine, because I took chemistry and biology and zoology and statistics and all these things, and it was hard work. And then I was putting myself through school in the beginning with the band, what I was making from the band. So having so much fun and doing this, I thought, okay, this may not last, because I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a medical doctor. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to cure people. And so it took me a long time to actually accept it and then embrace it and realize that I could do healing with my music.
Yes.
And with my performances. And it was all based in my faith, since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
My faith is in my director. And once I embraced it and realized that music is a great healer. Yes. And then when I started writing my own music and sending messages in my music, and people telling me, oh, that song, that's my song, or I felt it, or it lifted me up, then you know that God was in there when you did. What keeps me going. is that gift that God gave me and Andrew and all of us in music. We're supposed to share it. We're supposed to lift people up with it.
Absolutely. Nicely said, too. Nicely said. And, that's really something because, so many times when an individual is going to school and higher education and all, and they have to actually claim a major, sometimes it doesn't go the way that they planned, right? And
yeah,
like even and I went to school at Michigan State University, and my major, my major was actually clinical lab science and a minor in microbiology. And look at me, I'm in journalism. How did that happen, right? So
and you love it.
Yeah, and I love it, and it's been a career for over 30 years with the publication as well as now the radio show Mi Gente on air. So you never know sometimes when you're that young what you really want to do in life, or sometimes God will, put a path that's totally different from where you thought you were going to go. And it's a path that will help to benefit others. And I'm so happy to be able to say that in your presence, Patsy, because it's exactly what has happened with you, and you embraced it and you love it. And it has been good to you. I mean, who has that kind of story, really? I mean, who as an artist today has the story of Patsy Torres? You've been very fortunate. It's beautiful.
What's funny is I would never have gotten into music in the first place if my little sister hadn't started playing saxophone. And when she was getting out of class all the time, because, band camp, pep rallies, they always had the school band out playing for everything and getting out of class. I was like, I want to get out of class too. And I said, I'll play anything. And my grandfather, the doctor, had an old rusty trumpet in his closet. I said, I'll play that. I didn't care. It was about getting out of class. That's all it was. And I just practiced, and I caught up and got into the A band, and then became a decent trumpet player. Never thinking that I didn't plan to keep playing it. In fact, I'm playing it again now. I started playing it again. But I never thought I would have a career in music. Never dreamed of it, ever.
Wow. I remember seeing you on the Bumper Gomez show, Bumper's Wacky Wednesday, and you talked. Yeah, isn't he great? What a career he's having too. He exploded this last year. But I remember you saying on there that you did not get first chair. I played the trombone way back in the 5th grade. It started, and I could never get first chair because, well, I just really didn't care, really, and I was always last chair because I didn't practice enough. Well, we had this competition.
I wasn't last chair.
Well, yeah, I was. I'll admit it. But it was funny because we did this competition, and I remember I went home and I practiced all week, and when we actually, had the competition, I got first chair for the first time, and everybody, all the band members stood up for me and clapped because they knew what was happening, so that I just remembered that you said you were second chair.
Yeah.
Like, so that's pretty amazing. Yeah. And isn't it something that, like I said, we're kind of coming full circle with Andrew, 25 years later and all. And in the midst of all of that, of course, is this legendary singer who we all looked to as, this great performer and great singer. And she started out playing the trumpet. So let's talk about what is happening today with Patsy Torres's band.
Well, I'm writing some more music. We do a variety of things. So we do some English tunes also, and we just did a show over there at the Tobin for the New Pura Vida Awards. We performed over there. And just a lot of different things coming up. We do want to do a music video on our new release. Oh, yeah, the new album right here.
All right, everybody, look at this here. The new album by Patsy Torres. What is it called?
Vive con ganas.
Vive con ganas.
Yeah. Well, you tilt it a little bit towards us. There we go. We can see it better that way. Okay. Yeah. And how many albums is this for you, Patsy?
13, I believe.
13? Wow.
It might be 14, I'm not sure.
Well, like I said, she began her career in 1982, and 42 years later, she's still going strong. And we're talking to the great Dr. Patsy Torres and Andrew Cardenas, who is a Saginaw native, graduate of Arthur Hill High School. He is her accordionist, and he is living out his dream of being a Texas Tejano musician in Texas. Now, where are you guys in the same town, or where? I don't even know where you are.
San Antonio.
San
Not too far
Antonio.
from each other.
Considered the capital of Tejano music.
Yes, the capital of Tejano music. Love it there. Love it there. And you know, one of the things that I asked Andrew earlier on the show was the idea of, you know, where he sees Tejano music, because, and I'm asking you this, Patsy, as well, Tejano music today, because, you know, we here in the Midwest, we're not always privy to all of what's happening down in Texas or in the capital in San Antonio, but we, you know, we support Tejano music because of our migrant ancestors who came from Texas and came to Michigan to pick the crops, and they stayed because of General Motors, and they support Tejano music all these years. But how do you feel about the musical industry today?
Well, it's going to evolve just like all music does. I mean, you can see how Tejano music has evolved since the beginning, when it was more conjunto sounding, with all the, you know, all the influences from Mexico. Well, now it started getting influenced from, you know, American music, you know, because they started using electric guitars and keyboards and effects and everything. And we're also being now influenced with reggaeton, you know, and all these different sounds. And it's to be expected that music's going to evolve, and it has to get the younger generation in on it also. Because so I think the stuff that's been coming out is really cool, especially the cumbias.
Yeah.
There's some really neat. There's some Colombiano things that they're kind of doing, but Tejano's making it their own. But it's still Tejano. You know, it's still us, the Texan music.
Yeah.
So I'm just excited about it. And in fact, the album that we just did, one of the songs on there has a 60s taste to it.
Really?
Because I was inspired by 60s, and it's called Oh No Ya No Hay Amor. And it's really different.
Wow.
You know, you never heard a song like that before, but I was like, hey, why not? I like it.
Yeah. I
Got a little bit of a Ronette flavor.
Oh, wow. I was going to say Ronnie, because what was her name? Ronnie Spector?
Spector.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was married to Phil Spector, unfortunately. Yep. But Ronnie Spector was with the Ronettes, and I remember her in her later career. She performed with Question Mark and the Mysterians in Ohio. She got up on stage with Question Mark, who's also from Saginaw. I don't know if you're familiar with Question Mark. Yeah, they were migrant workers. Yeah. Their parents 96 Tears originated out of the Great Lakes Bay region here in Bay City, Michigan. And he is a good friend of mine. And Andrew, I think you probably met him too through me back in the day when, you know, I was really involved with Question Mark and the Mysterians with Mi Gente magazine and all. So, you know, that's really something. Andrew, do you find that maybe is there any influence that you have with Patsy's music that may have originated in Saginaw or has a Saginaw flair to it?
Well, we actually did one of the songs from her past albums, Aguanta Corazón.
Oh, yeah.
And the first way that we did it did have that Saginaw flavor. It's mostly accordion driven. But on the album, we ended up adding keys and everything.
Wow. So that's really nice.
Gilbert Velasquez actually recorded.
Oh, wow.
Legendary
really?
Gilbert, yeah.
Yeah, from Bay City.
He did this album.
No, Gilbert Velasquez from San Antonio, who's done
yes. Okay.
everybody's album.
Yeah. Wow. Now, Patsy, is there any singer or any musical influence you mentioned your grandfather? Was there any influences from some of the artists back when you started during that time?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
One of them was Linda Ronstadt.
Oh.
Because she did all these different types of music. I mean, she did country, she did rock, she did pop, she did oldies from the
40s and 50s, yes.
She did opera, and then of course she did mariachi. I mean, she didn't let any genre just lock her in. And see, I love all kinds of music too, and I perform all kinds of music. I do oldies and country. I do a Patsy Cline tribute.
Yeah.
do 16 of her hits.
Wow.
And I dress up like her and everything. I tell her story. It's a whole 90-minute tribute I do.
And do you still do that, or is that something that you've just
yes,
done? Wow, I want to see that because I love Patsy Cline. Is that who you're named after?
Up next month. What?
Was that who you were named after?
No, I was named after my mother was Patsy.
Oh, okay.
But what got me interested in Patsy to begin with was when that movie came out in the 80s.
Yeah.
Remember?
Sweet Dreams.
And Sweet Dreams. In fact, that's the name of my program, Sweet Dreams of Patsy.
Oh, wow.
But I said, wow, there's a singer named Patsy, because I would never meet a Patsy. It was always Patricia, Patty, Pat, Patrice.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And of course, once I started singing, one of the classics you have to sing was Crazy. Wow. So I learned Crazy. And I'm in the same vocal range as Patsy Cline. So I can hit all the low notes and the high notes. I'm in the same range. So it's really easy to sing her song.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot by any means, but is there any way we could get a little sample?
Do it.
A little sample of you singing Patsy Cline. Dr. Patsy thought is singing Patsy Cline.
I know 16 of her songs, so which one did I do?
Probably Crazy. We all love Crazy.
Crazy. I'm crazy for feeling so lonely. I'm crazy for feeling so blue.
Right off the cuff. Oh my gosh, you sound just like her. You could have an actual career as Patsy Cline. Put on that's
what they tell me.
Wow.
I do the whole thing, Larry. I put on the wig, I wear the fringe, and I talk like Patsy Cline also when I tell her story.
Wow. You could have been the promotional gal better than the actual artist. What was her name? I can't remember who the actor.
Oh. Yes. What was her name?
Yay.
We can't remember.
Yeah, 5 minutes to remember.
You remember everything, Andrew. Jessica Lange.
Jessica Lange, yes, the great Jessica Lange. She did phenomenal in that movie, by the way. But you could have been on the red carpet as a promotional for the movie for Sweet Dreams with that.
Well, the whole reason that the Patsy Cline tribute came about was because we were doing these little programs with a friend that I met from Las Vegas, and he's the one that got me into saying, "Hey, doing characters." And we were doing a 50s show, and I was playing Connie Francis. So I had that wig. So when people on Facebook saw me, it was a theater out of Fredericksburg, saw me, they thought I looked just like Patsy Cline. And they said, "Is she doing Patsy Cline?" And they called me, they got my number, and they said, do you do Patsy Cline? Well, I knew Crazy, so I just said, yes. Okay, well, we want to hire you, and you're going to be with these other tribute artists. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
And I just said, okay. That's what started it.
So you never did Connie Francis again. It was always Patsy Cline.
I did her a couple more times, but it's all Patsy Cline because I only knew 2 of Connie Francis' songs.
Wow.
And now I know 16 of Patsy Cline's.
Well, what's your favorite of hers?
Well, I like that Leave It on Your Mind, and also She's Got You.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that was on the charts for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah, that's another slow one, kind of ballad.
Mm-hmm. Most all of hers were slow. In fact, we were so inspired. I did record one of her songs, and we turned it into Tejano and put it on the album also. And it's called it's Your Cheating Heart.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it has been a real pleasure. I wish we could go on, and so much of the technical difficulties happen, but
I know.
You are amazing.
We'll do part 2 in the future.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. We'll do a Christmas show.
Yeah.
We'll do a Christmas show because I heard your Christmas music too. So yeah, that would be awesome. But thank you so much. Yeah. You are truly a gem in the genre of Tejano and music in general. So thank you so much, and thank you for taking to heart Andrew Cardenas, our Saginaw local who's done so good in Tejano music. And we will definitely do a show with you again. And I am so happy to have had you as my guest today. So
thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
I want to thank you as well, both of you together and separately, and to just sticking with me on the show as we went through the technical difficulty. So it turned out to be a great show. Yeah, thank you so much. Adios, everybody. We were talking with the great. Thank you so much. Adios. So we're here on the live stream now. The show is actually over. That will be broadcast on Sunday. But is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about? Because I wanted to give you the chance to be able to what's on your mind today here on September the 10th, 2024.
Well, we want to thank you. Thank you, Larry, for having us, and thank you for what you do by promoting La Música Tejana.
Oh, thank
because
you.
it's because of programs like yours, that keeps us in touch and promoting us as artists and our music. So thank you.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. And I'm just so thrilled to see that Andrew is doing what he's doing with you. It's truly, you're respected in the industry very highly, all the way over here in the Midwest. And I know that it's very heartwarming for me to have someone of your caliber on my show, and there's only been a few, and I've been doing this for 4 years, but there's only been a few, and Santana was one of them, of course. Elida Reina, Stephanie Montiel, and yourself. It's just wonderful to know that we have the musical talent in our genre. It's so important that we continue, and we know the history, that we promote the history as well as we promote the new artists today, because there's so many that probably see you as a huge influence in their careers.
I would like to think that, because that's what we want to do. We want to leave a legacy, a positive legacy. And I have to say something else about Andrew. Andrew's not just a musician; he's a historian. I see a big future for him in the future with the knowledge he has and the research he does on music and musicians and the history of Tejano music. I think he's going to do some things, and I think he's got some stuff coming up also that he's going to do.
That's pretty awesome, Andrew. I hope that Club Diferencia had some influence on that part of you, because 25 years ago, when these kids, they were into mischief and everything else, we were still there trying to bring in these artists and getting the kids, even as we are today, to get them to know their musical history, and know their culture. And I think Andrew just flew with it. He just totally really flew with it. Mike Reyes, you remember Mike and what he's doing, with culture creators. And, there was a select group of young individuals that I see each of them doing so well, We
were a special group.
You really were. You really were.
And I don't think that it's been duplicated since.
No.
And that's unfortunate. And we wanted to try to lay down those tracks, but it just didn't grab on, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's like important. Like you said, culture.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
To be proud of our culture, to embrace it, and know our history, be proud of who we are. Yeah, we're Tejanos, or we're Latinos, or Hispanics, or Chicanos, whatever they want to call us, right? But we're Americans.
Yes.
And we're proud of being here. We believe this is the greatest country in the world.
Absolutely.
And but we've got this beautiful culture. And I always look at it like when they talk about America and the mix, they talk about salads or a melting pot, right? I see it as a stew. It's a stew, because a melting pot, everything melts into a big blob. You don't know what's what. And a salad, they're very individual, The tomato rolls over there, and lettuce. But a stew, everything cooks in there and simmers, and everything gives flavor to everything else. The potatoes taste better, the meat tastes better, everything tastes better because of all the different ingredients in there. And that's what we are. We're a stew. We're so much better from all the
It's a caldo.
A caldo de res. Caldo, yeah. You have a way with expressions and explaining scenarios, and you do it very well. And I think that probably has a lot to do It comes from the corazon, and you love your culture, and it's very apparent. And thank you for that. Thank you, because
she is a doctor, Larry.
Yes, Dr. Patsy Torres.
Yeah. My father was from Mexico. My father came across the border. My grandfather brought the family over. My father was 13 when he came.
What
he had to learn
what part of Mexico?
San Luis Potosí.
Oh, wow. Yeah, my grandfather passed away there in 1971, and he lived with us in Saginaw, Michigan. And he actually slept in my room with me. I think he passed when I was like 5. But San Luis Potosí was always so important because that's where he actually passed away, and he had a girlfriend over there.
Good for him.
Yeah. Well, my grandmother had passed away already like 6 years before, but
even better.
Yeah. So
good for him, at least.
He had arthritis pretty bad, and so he would always try to go to the warmer climate, and he loved San Luis Potosí. So that's awesome.
It's a beautiful city. I've been there. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Isn't that where Little Joe's parents are from?
Oh, are they?
I believe Little Joe's parents are from San Luis Potosí.
Oh.
I believe so. I think you said that.
I actually remember the plaza in San Luis Potosí. Do you remember that, Patsy? The plaza that when you come?
Actually, the house is close to the plaza. It's real close. It's walking distance.
Wow.
It's right there. So, and my grandfather had this big complex. It was 2-story, and he was a doctor there, and my grandmother would be the nurse. And he had a surgical room, and then he had the room for delivering babies, and the room for checkups, and it was all that. They lived in the same area. I mean, that their house was his clinic, and there was my father on his little bike, zooming around the
plaza.
The place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to mention, Mi Gente on Air, we do have listeners who are non-Hispanic, and it is broadcast throughout the Great Lakes Bay region. So I do want to take a moment just to say, everybody who's listening out there, we have a legendary Tejano artist on our show tonight. Her name is Patsy Torres. She's a doctor of education, and she's been in the industry for over 40 years. And her accordionist player is Andrew Cardenas, who is a native of Saginaw. He has a lot of family in this area, and they're doing great things, big things in Texas. So that's who our guest is today here on Mi Gente on Air. And we just want to thank you so much again. Thank you for being with us, and keep doing what you're doing and promoting that culture and the música latina, tejana. And just thank you again for all that you do, and for kind of being that role model for Andrew, for, bringing him into the fold of Tejano music.
No, Andrew's been great. I'm very lucky and blessed to have him. Our whole band is. All the guys love him. He's been great. And I do have to say to your non-Hispanic watchers and listeners, I've got family in Boston, Massachusetts, in Utah, and in Grants Pass, Oregon. My mom was from Grants Pass, Oregon. She was German, English, Irish, Scotch.
Wow.
Her maiden name was Schnelling.
Wow. Well, thank you again. My producer says we've gone way overboard here on the show, but that's okay. And it will be edited and broadcast on Sunday at 8 p.m. The live stream will be on many of the social media platforms that we have. And anybody can catch that show, and you can share it over there down in Texas too. So thank you again, Patsy Torres, Dr. Patsy Torres. You truly are a gem. And Andrew, thank you, Andrew, for all that you do in representing Saginaw, Michigan, your hometown. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again next week here on Mi Gente on Air.
God bless everybody.
Thank you.